Welcome to Toffee Review, your source for all things Everton. I'm Gerry. I got Paul here. You may remember him from last week. And also with us is a guy who has the same last name as Paul. It's a pure coincidence, right? It's just... No, it's his brother, guys. They're related, and it's awesome. This is a first for the Toffee Blues YouTube podcast action. Terry writes for the Liverpool Echo Fan jury, and yeah, just like Paul, they're just very similar brothers. Paul, Terry, how's it going, man?
Yeah, it's going good, man. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I see you on Twitter all the time. This is literally the first time we've spoken, though. It's pretty awesome. Looking forward to it. Paul, it's great to see you again, man. Welcome back.
Thank you, man. I'm very glad to be back.
Transfer focus. I'm going to start by talking about the most recent rumor. Left back from Hertha Berlin, Marvin Plattenhardt, who I am not familiar with very much at all, I've got to be honest. But the more I dug, I realized I should have been, because he's actually on Germany's national team. He's on their World Cup squad. All right? Probably second choice left back. He's in a lot of teams of the season for the Bundesliga. So, guys, do you know anything about Plattenhardt at all?
It's only broken today, I think, on the day of recording, the link. So I've only struggled to find even YouTube clips of him, which is quite strange considering he's in the Bundesliga. But the one thing I will say about him is he's got tremendous hair and beard game. So that's enough for me sometimes. Now, it's good to see links to that position just in general, because all the links we're getting at the minute, none of them so far, apart from maybe Frank Fabra, have been left backs, and I think that is the first position that the club need to be looking at in the summer. So even if we don't know much about him at this point, just the fact that the club are looking to identify players in that area is encouraging.
Yeah, and I did mention a little update last time. Frank Fabra tore his ACL. Not a possibility for us anymore, so that's a thing. The only other left back we were connected to is Danny Rose, and I don't really know of anybody else. So anyway, this is an interesting player. Paul, what do you know about Plattenhardt? What do you think?
Plays for Hertha Berlin, I believe. He's around 26, 27, so he's in his prime years of his career. He's not some young kid who's not played a lot of football, and he's not some older player who's basically got nowhere else to go and is going on the cheap. So I like the idea of being linked with players who are 26, 27, who can just come in straight away if needs be, and they will not be overawed by the occasion. And they're also not so old that they're a case of, well, if they get a run of 5-6 games, they would probably start to feel the pace in the Premier League. So I really like the idea of bringing in a guy who is right in the middle of his prime years and can make a difference straight away. Now, whether he's got the quality, I don't know, because admittedly I've not seen a lot of him other than the clips. Looks like he can hit a good set piece. But I'll just reiterate the fact that, as Terry said, we are even looking at left backs is a big win for us. We need a left back. It's possibly the most important position in the squad that needs to be filled. Leighton Baines is getting up there in age. He's not going to be around forever. There is no one at the club really who can go left back in his position if needs be. I mean, I think we've got 1 or 2 kids in the youth team, and I think Anthony Robinson's coming through. But again, other than that, do they really inspire confidence in a lot of people? Not really. So left back is a position that absolutely needs to be addressed in the summer, and it's good to see that we're getting down to business with that very early if these links are true.
Yeah, as you alluded to, when you look up YouTube clips, everybody, of Plattenhardt, it's almost all set pieces. It's almost exclusively set pieces. The only skills goals video you could really find of Plattenhardt is when he was playing for Nuremberg. Okay, you don't see a lot of actual footage of him defending, which is I find interesting. So, but he's got a left peg though. He's got a killer left peg. Can deliver a lot of. I mean, he's really good delivering crosses in. But he's not particularly fast, which I find interesting when I think about Silva's game. And he really wants those outside backs to bomb forward. And Plattenhardt, I don't know. He doesn't really seem like a fast player. He's quick, and when that first 1 to 10 yards, that first little bit. But on a straightaway, I don't know if he's going to be blowing a whole lot of people out of the water. I don't even know if he's got as much speed as Seamus. So I'll be curious to see if this one goes through and to see if it matches Silva's game plan. But am I in favor of this? Yes, definitely, because it means we're addressing. I feel like he's better than Robinson right now, and I'm a huge Anthony Robinson fan. I am. I mean, he's on the U.S. national team, and he's been playing well for the U.S. national team as well. You know, it's exciting. I watched him against France the other week, and they didn't score 5 goals against him, so it was great because I was expecting to lose that 5-0. Yeah, anyway, I just think we send Anthony Robinson maybe on loan one more time, and we bring in a more cultured player like Plattenhardt. Then Baines can ride off into the sunset, do his thing, but I think he's got one more good year in him because he played well when he came back. So, I don't know. I like this. Seems like you guys like this. And, yeah, people are saying FC sexy. Like you said, beard and hair game. It's looking good. All right, so let's move on sort of to the main points of this segment. Let's start with William Carvalho. All right, he's 26 years old, so it fits into that same age range that you were mentioning earlier, Paul. Obviously, he's from Sporting. Plays center mid or center defensive mid, whichever. He can play both of those. So the initial reports were that we wanted to sign Carvalho on on a clean transfer. Pay a fee, get the player very clean, and there you go. Because that's the way it normally goes, right? And I think we were hoping to we wanted to get this over with, I think. That's the vibe. That's what I've been hearing anyway. However, it's starting to look like clean's not an option here, guys, because Carvalho, along with several other players, is saying, you know what, we want to terminate our contract because life at Sporting is, let's say, tenuous. It's a little tough at Sporting right now. So it looks like they're trying to terminate their contract, which means initially it would be a free for us if he were to choose to come to us. However, I think there's a possibility of court arbitration and us having to pay something because of that. Is that correct? Did I read that correct? You guys heard that?
Yeah. I've heard he's basically ripped up his contract and said to the chairman of Sporting that I'm done. You'll never see me again. I'm not coming back. And I don't really see that being allowed, really. I mean, unless he's got a clause in his contract that if something dramatic were to happen, he's allowed to leave. I don't see Carvalho just basically clearing out his locker and driving in his car and saying, see you later, Sporting Lisbon. I'm not coming back. I do not think it's going to be that simple.
It won't be simple in the sense of, we'll just pick up the player for a free, because obviously legally Sporting, no matter what happens with the player, they're not going to accept that. I do think we're not going to end up paying a fee in the clean transfer sort of route now, because if we were, I think we'd have done it before he went to the World Cup. I think that is why he's not here already, because we may have made an approach. We don't just approach. It's not Marcel Brands and their director of football. There's agents involved. There's other representatives. We could have got wind that something like this was about to happen, so we're just sort of stepping back and just hanging on for a little bit to see what happens. Now, obviously, it's very complicated if we do end up taking the player and he's bought out his own contract and he's, it's not a traditional transfer. But financial fair play wise, they could see why that'd be very attractive to the club, because they could bring in a player who they possibly had already identified as a target and end up not having to make a huge outlay on the books for him. Just put a lot less money, but in different avenues. So it's the agent, the signing on fee and whatnot. So I think that's why it's dragged on as long as it has, because the club want to see what happens with this whole situation before they make the move.
Yeah, what I had heard was happening is Carvalho wanted the club to actually get a transfer fee, and he wanted it to be clean. But if Sporting were not going to be reasonable about the terms, about the fee, then he would think about terminating. And this news of him wanting to terminate his contract, to me, just tells me that maybe Sporting was not being very flexible on their negotiation, and so he's ready to walk. I did hear that this makes things a lot more complicated for us in that it's going to take longer, more red tape. However, and like you mentioned, Terry, initially on a free, but I think we're paying something at some point. Because I've heard people mentioning that Sporting has said they'll sue the player and whoever signs them. Just a lot of complicated, weird stuff going on. But the situation with was it Rui Patricio, who filed to have his terminated? It was accepted. It was allowed for him to be able to do this. You know, he wrote a big long letter about it, and it was accepted. So I think it's legal for them to make this happen. But I do think Sporting is going to try to get some sort of compensation for this, because it seems like they should, right? I mean, otherwise they're losing over 100 million euros worth of players here, which is, I mean, that's a killer. Mm-hmm. However, with what transpired at Sporting, you just don't see that in modern football.
No.
So you understand why the players want to leave, but gosh, that's a really rough situation. Terry, you were about to say something.
If the situation was reversed and it was we were the club and our players were in this position, even though the players do have I do have a great deal of sympathy for the players, considering that, you know, they haven't just plucked this out of the air, they're doing it for a reason. From the club's point of view, they must be like, well, no, we're going to sanction departures, but we want to do it properly. So that's probably where the phrase clean transfer comes from.
Yeah.
But whether their clean transfer has been something that Sporting are looking to maximise the fee or not, you know, not be taken advantage of, and from the players' point of view, they're probably a little bit like, no, that's just, I don't want this delay, I want it done, take whatever's been offered and move on. Where the club are probably like, no, we're going to sell you, but we're going to get the price we want first.
And I do think there is some truth to this for the people out there who are saying, well, we don't even know if we're in for him. You know, that's a valid point. I mean, this could all be, but there have been a lot of noises from some pretty reliable sources, and sometimes it's not even from Everton ITKs. It's from other clubs' ITKs, which I find very interesting. If Carvalho is rumored to be tight with Silva, which we're hearing that as they've worked together at Sporting, and that he does supposedly want the move. So a couple of questions for all of us. Will this happen, and is this actually a good signing for us? Right? Does this make sense? So we'll start with Paul, and then we'll go to Terry.
I think this will happen. My gut says it will, or it will happen after the World Cup. I think this will be possibly the transfer that drags on throughout the summer, much like Sigurdsson's did last year. I think this will be the one that's not done until maybe... does the transfer window shut early this season? It shuts the first week of August, or August 1st, something like that.
Right before the season begins, right?
Right before the season begins. I think the transfer I think he'll be our last signing. I see 2 or 3 other names coming in first, but I do think he's going to turn up eventually here once the situation with Sporting Lisbon has worked itself out somewhat. Do I think it's a good signing if it happens? Yeah, I think it is, because some centre midfield players are going to move on. Schneiderlin looks like he's desperate to leave. I really don't believe Schneiderlin's going to stay. Mo Bezic, it's very unlikely he's going to stay. I think he will, if he doesn't go back to Middlesbrough on a permanent, I think he did enough whilst he was at Middlesbrough for another team to take a chance on him, type thing. And I think he must be at the point in his career now where he's been at Everton for 4 or 5 years, and I don't even think he's played 50 games. If that, certainly not 50 full games. Maybe at some point in his career, he will say, you know what, it's not going to work out here at Everton. I might as well just go, find pastures new, find somewhere else. And I think that's what's going to happen. So I think Schneiderlin's certain to leave. Besic is more than likely to leave. McCarthy's injured, so McCarthy's basically going to stick around for the time being. But I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in January, if he's fit by then, if McCarthy maybe has 1 or 2 offers coming in, even if it's just a loan deal, something like that. And obviously, again, Rooney looks like his bags are packed, and that's pretty much done. Rooney's going to leave. So other than that, and again, we're hearing Klasan could be on the move to Besiktas. I personally hope Klasan sticks around, but if he does, then there is a very real possibility that we're going to move 3 or 4 centre midfielders out of the club this transfer window. So we need some new bodies. Gay's going to stick around, Davis is going to stick around, and we need another guy to go in and complement them. So I think Carvalho, if he were to come, would be the perfect type of player. Personally, he's a big guy, he's strong, he's not very quick, but he looks like he can hang on to the ball quite easily. So he's basically another player in the mould of Schneiderlin, and Schneiderlin's basically the player we have to replace, because I really don't think Schneiderlin's going to stick around. So best to just hopefully get the business done, move Schneiderlin out if he's leaving, get Carvalho or a player like Carvalho in, and just get it done. But I personally think we will see Carvalho come playing at Everton next season. I really do.
Okay. Terry, what do you think?
I think in isolation, it's a weird transfer to make, a weird player to target, because if you look at him, the comparison with Schneiderlin is there. He's almost like Schneiderlin, but with passing ability. He's not blessed with a lot of pace. He seems quite lazy as a player. He doesn't seem to cover a lot of grounds, even at his reduced pace. He seems to sort of jog around the pitch. So, taking nothing away from his passing ability, he can ping a good ball. He's got great vision. But as I say, in isolation, strange player to target considering the way we know Marco Silva likes to play. But having said that, you don't know the full picture. Sometimes players may seem like strange buys until they all click together. I mean, I'm loath to use this example, but look at what Liverpool have done. They've signed some players, and you think, where do they fit in? And then when all the pieces come together, it works. Now, it could be that Silva has a very specific plan in mind for Carvalho and has a system and a setup and a shape that he thinks he fits into. But right now, with no other players in the door, with no sort of games to go off, what we know, we can't really know. We can assume what he'll be like, but we don't really know. So, and one small thing that's in the sort of negatives column for me for him is he's 27, which is not a bad age in general, but it's a bad age to have broken through young and still be in one of the minor leagues. Usually they get these star players from the smaller leagues like the Netherlands, like Portugal. They seem to go to a big league a lot earlier than he has, and you've got to wonder why he hasn't. He's been linked with a lot of big moves, and none of them have come off. Now, they won't all be down to him, but you've got to question why he hasn't moved to a bigger league sooner. So I'm sort of tepid on the move. I'm very lukewarm. I'm not against it, but I'm certainly not for it. I'm just going to wait and see how he fits in the big picture wise, because at the minute it's a strange one for me. Very strange one.
Do you actually think it will happen?
Yeah, I do now, because the link just won't go away, and the majority of the noise is coming from his end. It's turning up in one specific paper here repeatedly, not famed for its accuracy, but that doesn't mean they're always wrong. And it's coming out a lot on the Portuguese side of things, that it's the Portuguese side of the press stories are going to be well on top of everything that's going on with Sporting in general. So it doesn't sound like they're running a very tight ship, to be honest. All this stuff's coming out. It's in the press, everything that's going on behind the scenes, and it keeps coming up that William Carvalho is speaking to Everton, maybe going to Everton.
Right.
Marco Silva wants him. Could not be true, but I think at this point it's a genuine link. Whether it happens, I'm not sure. But if you ask me on the spot, yeah, I think it will. I think he'll come in. I don't think it'll be as protracted as Paul thinks. I think he'll be within days of Portugal going out the World Cup. I think it'll be wrapped up. In fact, I'd go so far as to say within a week of Portugal exiting the World Cup, at whichever stage that is, I think Carvalho will be here.
I also think it will happen. I agree with both you guys. As far as if this is a good signing, it's going to sound weird. I'm trying to compare him to another player. Another player that has that kind of vision and may not be blessed with a lot of speed in the middle, but they have a decent enough footballing brain to where they can break down play really well. They know where to be, okay? And this is going to sound like a strange comparison, but I can only pray that his game is just a little bit like Nemanja Matic's at Man United. A big guy, not the fastest guy in the world, just a very intelligent player who links up well with other players, and big, a physical presence in the middle. That's what I'm hoping for if we get him, because I've always thought that a player like that paired with an Idrissa Gueye would actually work well, because they seem to be opposites. You know, Idrissa Gueye has the speed, but has some issues with some of his incisive passes. But Carvalho doesn't have the speed, but he can actually pick a pass and, like you mentioned, ping those long into the channels to some people making those runs. I do think this will happen. I don't know if it's going to be the all-out, revelation that I think a lot of people are wanting it to be. However, I would love the idea of him being able to sit by himself as a defensive center mid right in front of the back line, so we could maybe roll with 2 more offensive center mids. That would be nice, just to be able to try that if we're needing a goal late, to be able to go a little more away from the defense and go more attacking. It would be nice to be able to do that. So I don't know if he's got the speed to be able to make that happen, but it would be nice. Do I think it'll be a good signing? I'm going to say good, not great. I'm going to say it'll be all right. Good. I'd rather have him here than Schneiderlin. That's the real question.
Yeah.
Because I think he's better than what we have. Okay, so I think we're good on Carvalho. So, guys, let's move on to James Maddison from Norwich City. I believe he's about 21 years old. I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
The big recent news was that we are prepping a bid somewhere between 20-25 million pounds for Maddison. And there are some news outlets that say that we are the front runners on this transfer. He's generally plays center attacking mid, sometimes a center mid, so a 10 or an 8. He can play both of those. Secretly, I would hope he would be able to play 8 for us, so that we could maybe play him at the same time as Sigurdsson. But I don't know if that's really what he really wants to do. So a lot of people have been saying he would be replacing Rooney, which okay. However, there's a lot of other sources, a lot of them, who are saying that he's heading to Leicester, and I mean all the Leicester ITKs are saying that that's where he's going, and some of them are saying he would be replacing Mahrez, which I find strange as well, because they kind of play different positions. I know Mahrez sometimes will play in the center, but usually plays on the right, and I don't think James Maddison plays on the wing much at all. The only similarity is that both of them have the ability to unlock defenses like on the dribble. Both of them are very skillful players. And they both get a decent amount of assists as well, but usually in different ways. James Maddison had 15 goals and 11 assists last season in all competitions. Pretty solid tally. And he's got a tremendous shot from range. He's good with set pieces, and he's just super confident on the ball. So, guys, having said that, we'll start with Terry this time. Would this signing make sense? Do you think it's going to happen? And if so, will it come good?
I do think it'll happen. I think if it's a straight fight between us and Leicester for the player. Now, don't want to take anything away from Leicester, but I can see us being a lot more of an attractive proposition for a young player, because I know Leicester have had recent success, but historically they are quite a small club, and we have got a lot of ambition going forward, which I think will cut the most ice with young players. We're going to hopefully go into a new stadium. We're going to try and become consistently in Europe. We're looking to go after trophies. There's a big project on at Everton, whereas Leicester sort of seem to be just, we're fine where we are. Leicester, for example, wouldn't mind finishing 8th every year, whereas we sacked the manager even though we finished 8th. So I do think it'll happen, just for that reason. I think we're a more attractive option. I think it makes perfect sense if you listen to Marcel Brands, because ever since he's come to the club, he's sort of outlined this vision he has, where he wants to sort of build a young team that can grow together with a young manager, and ideally he hasn't gone as far as to say this, but grow into a team that goes into the new stadium. Now, Maddison fits that profile. He's young. He's he's a reasonable price. People think it's a lot because of the number, but not 25 million now is the new 10 million from a couple of years ago. So yeah, that's a lot for a Championship player, but I honestly don't see much of a difference in quality between outside of the top 6 in the Premier League and the top 8 teams in the Championship. There is a divide, but not as big as it used to be. So the likes of Jack Grealish at Villa, James Maddison at Norwich, these young players who are breaking through in Championship clubs, it's not as big a leap anymore for me. So I think it'd be a brilliant bit of business, just because he's a rising star in the Championship and he fits exactly what Marcel Brands seems to want to be doing. Young, hungry, wants to make his name at the club rather than has already made his name, and is just coming to the club because another move didn't work out, like some players we've had in the past. Seem to take a lot of Man United players who don't seem to cut it. I think he wants to get away from all that, and the club said it themselves. They want to sort of try and reinvent themselves as the Atletico Madrid of England, which they've done that for years. They sort of buy young, develop, and then if they become too big, they move them on for a massive fee to a super-sized club, and then just immediately replace them with another quality young player. Mm-hmm. So I'm very up for this signing.
Paul, what do you think? We discussed him last week's transfer show. What are you thinking about him?
I don't see it happening, or rather, I haven't seen anything yet that's led me to believe it's going to happen. I mean, so far the links that I've seen, maybe there have been, but I've only ever seen really the links on social media. And a lot of Leicester in the knows are very adamant that he's coming to them. So I haven't seen anything concrete yet that's making me believe, yes, this is a guy the club is definitely in for. For me, it just sounds like a lot of hot air, maybe. If he comes in, I'd be willing to give him a chance, definitely. I mean, he's got a lot of hype around him, as we've been saying. There's a lot of reasons to invest in a player like that. As Terry said, he's young, he's ambitious, he's English as well, which goes for the homegrown quota. So I think it would be a move. If we did get him, I would be very interested to see what he can do, because obviously from the Championship, taking players from there, it's always a little bit of a gamble. No, for every Lookman we get, every world-class guy we get, we also get someone like, I don't know, a Jermaine Beckford. Someone like that, a guy who I'm not going to say he's going to be another Jermaine Beckford, but there's a lot of players who look really, really dynamite in the lower leagues, and they're quite young. And you think, right, if we step this guy up at this is the right time for him to go to the Premier League, and he'll build and go on and on and on. And it's not always the case sometimes. So if the guy comes in, I'd definitely like to see where he fits in. Would he be a starter who came in straight away? I couldn't see him starting over Sigurdsson in the number 10 position. And I don't think he plays out wide. So if he comes in, I think he would be one for the future very much. I don't think we'd be seeing him playing 35, 40 games in a season. But until I see some... I personally, my gut tells me he's probably going to rock up at Leicester, maybe. Until I see something that's very concrete, that makes me think, right, that's a source who I kind of trust. If that guy says we're in for him, then I believe we're in for him. Until we actually hear that, then I think right now it's just people kind of wishing for a transfer rather than there really being a lot of substance to it. So overall, do I think he'll come? Probably not. If he does come, I'd be interested to see how he does, but I wouldn't be jumping up and down just based off some doing well in the Championship. Obviously, hopefully he, as I said, there'd be no one more happy than me that if he came up from the Championship and did really, really well and proved to be another Lookman, a world-class player, or a guy who looks like he has the makings of being a world-class player, who stepped up at just the right time and is ready to kick on with his career now. But to be honest, it's not a transfer that has got me more excited. I've got more excited reading other links with other players than I am with this one. So we'll wait and see with this one.
I think there are some aspects of this signing that would make sense. I love as I mentioned, I love the idea of him being able to, if he has to, play in the center, but not necessarily as a 10. That way we could potentially play him with Sigurdsson. However, if Sigurdsson is unavailable, or if we need a little extra enthusiasm off the bench late in a game, I could see him coming in and giving Sigurdsson a rest and giving us a lot of energy the last 15 minutes of the game. That would actually be interesting if he was willing to kind of take that number 10 understudy role for a little while. It would make sense. And as Terry mentioned, it does fit the profile of the type of player that Bronze is looking for, which are those, the idea of having this young group and gradually growing them up together, almost like a family. And I think he's actually friends with DCL. So this signing can make sense. I can justify it, and I would be excited about it. I went and watched a bunch of his videos last night. He's fun to watch, man. He's a really fun player. Having said that, if we're going to make purchases right now, I want them to be for starters. I want it to be for a player who has the chance of starting immediately. I don't, right now, when I look at our squad, I don't think he starts immediately, which makes me think that he has a higher chance of starting at Leicester. And if he's like a lot of other players, he wants to play. Okay? So that's why I do not think this is going to happen. But like you, Paul, I would love it. If we have the ability to be able to make a signing, and as long as he's cool with not playing every game, yeah, I'm good with that. Let's do it. Let's move ahead. And I do think it would be a good signing. I do think it will come good if it happens. I think it will be, the idea of him working with Lookman and DCL and Davies and in a little while Beningame, who is a good young player. There's we would have a huge group of talent that we'd be allowing to marinate together, steep. It would be nice. So I worry I don't think it's going to happen because for some reason I trust the Leicester sources more than these big vague sources that are putting us with Maddison right now. But again, like you guys, it would be cool. I would like it. So, guys, I think that covers it. I think we're good on our transfer focus segment. We'll be doing a lot more of these where we focus on specific players. We did 2 this time because those were the hottest links. Okay? So, anyway, that's it for the transfer focus segment. If you are digging the videos, please subscribe. We're really close to 830 subs, so gradually making our way toward 900 and then 1,000. So thanks for that. Please like the video. Tell a friend. Why not? That'd be great. Please check out both Terry and Paul write for the Liverpool Echo Fan jury. That'll be happening more during the season, but keep an eye out for that coming up, I guess, in August. Also, Paul writes for the Toffee Blues website, so check out some of his work there too. All right, guys, let's go do another video, shall we?
No, you're ready.
Oh, by the way, Terry's first video, so good job, Terry. There you go.